Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Ramadan Storytime with Sister Marsha. I'm so glad that you could join me today. I hope you all had a wonderful day, Ramadan Mubarak, and we're going to jump into tonight's story. Tonight's story comes to us from Quran Stories for Kids, and it's entitled The Ark of Nur. And as our previous stories were, this one is also written by Sani Yasmin Khan. The Ark of Nuh. Long, long ago, there lived a pious old man whose name was Noah, or Nuh, alayhi salam. He was a prophet of Allah. In those days, people did not follow the true path. They did not worship Allah. So Allah sent Nuh to these people to give them the message of truth. But they all refused to accept his call. He tried his best for a very, very long time, but no one except for a few poor people paid any heed to him. The rich people turned against Nuh and tried to harm him. So he prayed for Allah's help, and Allah heard his prayers and asked him to build an ark. And for those of you who don't know what an ark is, it is a boat. He told him that a great flood would come, which would be a punishment for bad people. So Nuh started building a huge ark with the help of a handful believers. People laughed at them. And here's a picture of the ark. When the vessel was ready to sail, after lots and lots of hard and tiring work, Nuh asked all the believers to go on board in the name of Allah. Allah told Nuh to bring along a male and a female of every kind of living creature as well. Nuh had to keep enough food to feed them all for a long time. This was a big job, but Nuh and his followers carried it out with all sincerity. And so here we see an image of the ark and we see some food supplies. One by one, all the animals entered the ark. Some had wings and some had legs. Some crawled and some hopped. All came right into the ark in pairs. The ark became a huge barn for the animals and a safe houseboat for the believers. And we see the animals going toward the ark to enter in. The animals came running, giraffes and rhinos, elephants and camels, monkeys and wolves, cats and kangaroos, bears and horses, cows and sheep, lions and tigers, and all went into the ark in pairs. There were chickens and ducks, flamingos and hawks, peacocks and pelicans, ostriches and hens, to name but a few. That's a lot of animals. Birds, both tiny and big, that flew high above the earth, came along too. All were gathered in pairs and led on board. Tortoises, snails, and turtles came crawling along the ground. Then came frogs and grasshoppers who hopped right into the ark. Rabbits, too, ran races. Let's see who gets on board first. And finally came the crocodiles with their big jaws. That's a whole lot of animals. And there we see another picture of the ark, and we see in the faint background, we see some rain start to come. No sooner had all the creatures come on board and the supplies had been stowed away, then black clouds began to cover the sky. First, there was a drizzle, then the rains came. More and more rain fell each day. Day after day, rain and more rain. The whole world seemed to be dark. It became darker and darker, with strong winds blowing from every side and water rising in huge waves as far as the eye could see. Allah commanded the floodgates of heaven to open and the ground to crack open so that a fountain of water came shooting up. The rivers overflowed and water fell in torrents. The ark rose and fell on waves as tall as mountains. Imagine that. That's really tall. More and more water came till the valleys were filled. The trees were covered by the waters, the hills disappeared, and the mountains themselves sank out of sight. That's a whole lot of water. The world was like an enormous sea. The only thing one could see was water everywhere. Far down below, all those who had paid no attention to the call of the prophet Nuh and remained on land were drowned in the mighty flood. With the rain hammering on the roof and a great wind that roared all around, the ark went on sailing amidst the waves. The thunder rolled and the lightning flashed from the angry skies. Everyone on board was very frightened, but Nuh kept praying to his Lord for his mercy at this great moment of trial. So they were on the boat and there was tons of water, and Nuh continued to pray to Allah to help them as they went through this journey. And here we see another image of the ark on the water, giving us a visual of what it could have been. When the flood had reached its peak, Allah commanded the earth to swallow up its water and sky to hold back the rain. The water began to dry up. The rain had stopped. The clouds began to part as the level of the water began to go down. The mountain peaks began to rear up out of it. The ark was caught by the peak of Mount Judy in a land now known as Turkey and rested upon it. So all the rain went away and the ark was on the mountain. The prophet Nuh and the believers who were with him thanked Allah for saving them from such a devastating flood. Everyone happily came out of the ark. The animals were led to safety. Nuh prayed, Lord, let my landing from this ark be blessed, for you alone can make me land in safety. And we see all the animals coming out. We don't see an image of the people, but there were people on the ark with Nuh as well. And so I want us to keep in mind that they were also coming out of the ark. In this way, Nuh made the flood and the ark of Nuh. In this way, Allah made the flood and the ark of Nuh a sign and a warning for future generations. Thank you all for joining me for tonight's reading. Again, the name of this story was The Ark of Nuh, and it comes from the Quran for Kids, Quran Stories for Kids series. I am so glad that you were able to join me this evening, and I hope that you'll be with me again for the next Ramadan story time. Ramadan Mubarak. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.